Hi everyone, I'm Nicola from Elimee Designs, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why you should love the corner to corner stitch. So for those of you not already in the know, what is the corner to corner stitch? Well, I've put a little photo here for you to get an idea. Hopefully most of you will have seen one before, but essentially it's a stitch where you create a series of small squares. You start in one corner of the square, you work towards the opposite corner of the square, and it's just amazing. You can very easily grade it to make different sized objects, anything from a tiny dishcloth to a massive Super King blanket. It's incredibly versatile, and I will explain what I mean about that in a moment. And classically, it has worked using a double crochet. Now, that is a double crochet in US terms, not UK terms. And I won't lie, the photograph is technically of a corner to corner square using half double crochet. So, I mentioned a moment ago about versatility. Now, this is one of the reasons why I love this stitch so much. It works with any yarn weight, any hook size, and any stitch, well, pretty much. I mean, all of these examples here are using the classical square, but there are lots of other stitches that you can work in a corner to corner fashion as well. You can use a solid yarn with one colour, you can use variegated yarn, you can make your whole item in a single colour, you can make stripes, you can make pictures, you can make one of those lovely graph gowns that you see all over social media and go, oh my god, that looks amazing. Here you can see the 4 corner to corner designs that I have released so far. Now, the festive higgy blankets in my Christmas design at the bottom is using double crochet. The Aphrodite corner to corner blanket with the heart on it again uses double crochet, as does the striped color crush blanket. But the Chinese evergreen blanket square is actually half double crochet. All of mine technically were made using DK weight yarn, but I've seen plenty of people use them with Aran weight, with chunky weight, with 4-ply. The sky's the limit. And a huge thank you goes out to Chris, Vanessa, and Mel, who kindly allowed me to use a few of their photos to show you a few other ways that you can use the corner to corner stitch. So as you can see, we've got some stripes going on, we've got some variegated yarn being used. The only thing I didn't manage to capture was a plain corner to corner, but I'm sure you can imagine that, and a scrap gown. Now, maybe you've heard of a scrap gown, maybe you haven't, but a corner to corner stitch blanket for a scrap gown is the bee's knees. It's one of the most popular ways to use up lots and lots of scraps all in one go. You just make a huge magic yarn ball and then just start crocheting. It's that simple. Now, why should you trust what I say? Well, how about I tell you a little bit about me and see what you think? So, I am married with 3 small children. I've got 3 little girls, 6 and under, who keep me very, very busy. And I am a crochet pattern designer on the side of my day job. So, I've been doing it for the last 2 years and have released over 20 patterns, more than half of which are blankets. Blankets are my jam. They're the thing that I love to do the most. In particular, I like to create designs that use filet, colour work, and by colour work, I mean graph gowns, I mean mosaic, I mean tapestry, I mean intarsia, I mean literally any kind of colour work. I've dropped a link below and a QR code if you want to check out anything about me. So I've got my pattern shops, my social media platforms, all of my tutorials, everything can be found in that one place. Now, I mentioned my love of blankets. Here are 12 of the blankets that I have designed so far. By the time you see this presentation, I'll also have a new autumn blanket to show you. And yeah, I had so much fun creating that. I mean, that's one of those things where inspiration came from the most random place, but turned into something that I fell in love with. And I hope everyone else does too. So, why do people avoid the corner to corner stitch? Now, everybody has their own reasons and their own preferences. Some people just happen to prefer one particular stitch. Some people have had a bad experience. Perhaps they just don't like designs using that stitch. But here are some of the common reasons why people tend to avoid it. Some people think it looks too hard. Now, I promise you it is way easier than it looks. And figuratively speaking, there are a million tutorials on YouTube that will hold your hand and walk you through it step by step. There's no reason that if you can follow a video, you shouldn't be able to master this stitch if you want to give it a go. The second common reason is that people think it takes ages because they think it looks complicated. Just like any new stitch, any new skill that you want to master in life, you need a little bit of practice. And usually with any new skill, the more you practice, the faster that you get. Another concern that crops up quite commonly is being worried about counting. So, just like with any other stitch, it's particularly easy to drop a stitch at the start or the end of a row. With a corner to corner, sometimes it can be a little bit easy to drop stitches in the middle as well. But there are ways to get around this. If you're using a written pattern, print it out. Mark on, this is the longest row. This is the row where I need to start decreasing and which end you're decreasing from. If you're using stitch markers, and I do highly recommend that you use stitch markers, especially if this is something that you're trying for the first time, put a stitch marker at whichever end or both that you're decreasing from. It will be that visible reminder to you not to keep going in that direction. And once you've had a few decreases in a row, you'll see that edge forming and you won't be tempted to keep trying to extend beyond it. Once you have mastered the corner to corner stitch, the sky is the limit. As I said, you can literally design anything using the corner to corner stitch, and it's perfect for mindless activities. So, for example, if you're trying to watch a TV show, it's very easy to sit there crocheting a corner to corner blanket at the same time. Myself, I like to use it when I'm in a work meeting. So I tend to find if I'm not fidgeting in some way that after like an hour or so, my brain will start to wander, I'll zone out, and I'll miss what people are saying. But if my hands are moving, then I pay attention a lot better. And doing the corner to corner stitch, because it's very straightforward once you've mastered it, is a great way of doing this. In fact, my striped color crush blanket, which is the rainbow one that I showed you earlier with my daughter wrapped in it, was crocheted during a work meeting. So what are the basics that you need to know about the corner to corner stitch? Now, yes, as we mentioned, you start in one corner of the square and you work towards the other corner of the square. Now, traditionally in crochet patterns, a row starts in the bottom right-hand corner and works across towards the left. Obviously, it's a little bit different when you're working diagonally, but we are still going to start in that corner and finish in the opposite corner. Now, regardless of whether or not your blanket is going to be square or rectangular, there are 3 phases to consider when you are crocheting. The increasing phase, when your rows are getting longer and longer. The maintenance phase, where your rows are staying the same length, basically the same number of little squares. And the decreasing phase, where it's getting shorter and shorter until you reach that final point. Now, with a square, you're basically skipping the maintenance phase and going from increasing to decreasing. That long row only happens once and then you are straight into the decrease. With a rectangle, on the other hand, you're going to have a number of rows in that maintenance phase, as indicated by the pink squares on the screen, before you go into the decreasing phase. Hence, why I mentioned earlier, it can be really helpful to use those handy stitch markers to stop you going astray. Now for a quick tutorial. For those of you who already know how to do the corner to corner stitch, I'm going to try and make it a little less boring for you by showing you how to do the corner to corner half double crochet stitch. Grab your hook, grab your yarn, and let's get started. So first we're going to make a slip knot. If you are not familiar with how to do this, I will link a tutorial underneath. Pop your hook through the loop and pull it nice and tight. Now, unlike when you are doing the double crochet version of the corner to corner stitch, for the half double crochet version, you're going to chain only 5. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're then going to yarn over, and now you're going to count back, so from the 3rd chain from the hook. So that was, again, the 3rd chain that you made. You're going to pop your hook through there, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that is your first half double crochet. You're then going to do the same through the next 2 chains. So you will end up with 2 chains and then 3 half double crochets, making your first square as such. Now we're going to move on to the next row. At the start of any new row, you are going to chain 5. You're going to then count back to that 3rd chain from the hook and put your half double crochet. And again, just as before, you're going to pop a half double crochet into the other 2 chains remaining as well. Next, you are going to twist that original square so that you've got this chain 2 space that we made right at the top, you're going to pop your hook through, pull up a loop, and then pull that through as well, so you've just slip stitched into that chain 2 space. Next, we need to make another square to sit on top of this one. So we're going to chain 2 and place 3 half double crochets into that chain 2 space. Like so. So you've now got one square which represents your first row and 2 squares which represents your second row. And we're going to do the exact same thing for your next row. Keep repeating the process. So we're going to start by chaining 5, doing a half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook, the 4th chain from the hook, and the 5th chain from the hook. Exactly as before, we're going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space. Whoops, my hook came out. Chain 2, and then do 3 half double crochets into that same chain 2 space. Now, as your rows get longer, you're going to keep repeating this second square. So you're going to pop a slip stitch through that chain 2, you're going to chain 2, and then do 3 half double crochets into that chain 2 space. And it's exactly the same for every row during this initial increasing phase. And by increasing, I mean that your rows are getting longer and longer. So your first row has 1 square, your second row has 2 squares, your third row has 3 squares, 4, 5, 6, etc. So keep going in this manner until your square or rectangle, depending on what shape you want to make, is as tall as you would like it to be, or wide, I suppose, if you turn it that way, as soon as it meets one of the dimensions that you're after. So pause the video and come back then. So as you can see, I have now made 5 rows. You can tell this because my longest row has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. Now you have to decide whether you're going to be making a square or a rectangle. If you're going to be making a rectangle, and this is going to be the shorter side of your rectangle, you can start going up this way. Equally, you could start going across this way. If you want to make a square, you're going to bring both edges in together at once. Now I will show you how to do that. So I'm going to be doing a square, so both edges will come together now. However, if you are making a rectangle, you will continue making rows with 5 squares until it's the size that you want before you finish off that final corner. So, given that this is going to be my longest row, instead of chaining 5 and then turning to make another square at the top and make my row longer, I am going to turn my work and I am going to slip stitch into the top of those 3 half double crochets that I made. Okay, we then turn our work like this, and now we're going to behave as if we've already done that chain 5, 3 half double crochets. So just like you would for every other square, you're going to chain 2 and you're going to place 3 half double crochets into that chain 2 space. And you are going to do that for every square along this row until you get to this one here, so the penultimate square. Come back and meet me then. Okay, so as you can see, I have just made that square that's attached to the penultimate square of my row. Now I want this row to make a square, so I want it to go along here and not continue going up in this direction. So in order to start going back this way, I am going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space as I normally would, but then I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of those 3 half double crochets that I have just made. Then you're going to repeat the same process all over again. You're going to chain 2 and do 3 half double crochets into that chain 2 space. Oh, I need a bit more yarn. And keep working up that row until, again, you get to that penultimate square where you're going to slip stitch, turn, and then slip stitch into the top of the half double crochets. Keep repeating that until you come to the end of your square. So meet me there. Okay. So you've just made that final little square part of your larger square. Now, exactly as before, you're going to slip stitch into that adjacent chain 2 space. Now technically you could chain 1, cut your yarn and pull through at this point. However, it leaves your yarn in a bit of a funny place. I think it looks much neater after you've woven in your ends if you turn and slip stitch into your 3 half double crochets as you normally would. Then make your chain 1, cut your yarn and pull through that tail. Now when you weave in your ends, I think it will look a little bit neater, and if necessary you can then go and block your square to make it look perfect. I hope this has helped. Enjoy! So now that you've seen how to do the corner to corner stitch, I want to challenge you. I want you to learn something new. I love to teach, hopefully you love to learn. So I've got 3 different options depending on what skill level you're already at. If the corner to corner stitch is brand new to you, I want you to just try the classical corner to corner stitch. Use double crochet or half double crochet, give it a go. If you have any problems, feel free to email me. Like I said, my details are all in that link or that QR code earlier. Or join my Facebook group and ask in the group, where am I going wrong? Option 2, if you can do the basic corner to corner stitch, but you've never really tried it with colour work, try adding in a few stripes. Now your stripes can be equal width, they can vary in width. You could keep them all in solid colours, you could have some solid, some variegated. There's loads of ways to mix it up. So give it a go and show me on social media how it went. Put in a hashtag to Elimee Designs and I'll be sure to give you a love and praise you for having a go. Option 3, for those of you who are like, nah, I already know how to do that, challenge yourself with a graphghan. Now, if you've never done one, start simple. Maybe start with something small like a dishcloth or a towel and have a go, see how you get on with it. I'd be interested to see what your preference is in terms of yarn bobbins. If you are an experienced graphghan user, then do something more complicated. Either do a blanket with lots of different squares or a big blanket with a huge, maybe varied motif on it and see how you get on.